Captain Hyun-woo Kim stood at the window of the space station, watching the alien ship approach Earth. The massive vessel looked like nothing humans had ever built. It was smooth and silver, with no sharp edges or visible weapons. Strange lights pulsed along its sides in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "They're here," said Admiral So-young Park, walking up behind him. Her voice was calm, but Hyun-woo could see the tension in her shoulders. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first looked up at the stars. The alien ship stopped just outside Earth's atmosphere. It was huge, maybe 10 times larger than their biggest battleship. For 3 days, both sides just watched each other. Then the alien sent a message. "We are the Galactic Coalition," the translation device spoke in a cold, mechanical voice. "We come to meet the new species of this world. Prepare a place for our representatives." So-young had chosen the orbital station New Seoul as the meeting place. It was far enough from Earth to be safe, but close enough to show they weren't afraid. The station's best diplomats and scientists waited in the main conference room. Dr. Mi-jin Choi stood near her scanning equipment, trying to look casual while recording everything about the alien technology. The alien shuttle docked with a sound like singing crystal. When the airlock opened, 3 beings stepped through. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow faintly. Their leader wore what looked like liquid metal armor that shifted and flowed as he moved. "I am Commander Zorak of the Velthari," the alien said through his translator. His voice sounded bored, like he was doing this meeting for the 100th time. "This is Science Advisor Thyssen of the Kethmori and Ambassador Krex of the Genti." Hyun-woo noticed that Krex kept his head down and wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. The Genti looked almost human, except for the gray skin and the way his hands shook slightly. "Welcome to our system," So-young said, stepping forward. "I am Admiral So-young Park of Earth Defense Force. We're honored by your visit." Zorak's expression didn't change. "Let us proceed to business. It is standard procedure to exchange demonstrations of military capability. This helps us understand each other's level of development." The first part of the meeting took place in the station's main hangar. The aliens brought out a small device that looked like a crystal wrapped in silver wire. Thyssen activated it with a gesture, and suddenly the far wall of the hangar simply disappeared. Where solid metal had been, there was now empty space leading out to the stars. "Molecular disintegration beam," Thyssen explained, sounding proud. "It breaks apart the bonds between atoms. Very efficient for removing obstacles." Next, they showed a weapon that made the air itself catch fire. Purple flames danced through the hangar for several seconds before fading away. "Plasma accelerator," Zorak said. "Standard infantry weapon. The flames can burn through most known materials." The final demonstration made Hyun-woo's stomach turn. A small metal sphere floated into the center of the hangar. Krex activated another device, and the sphere began to stretch and twist, pulled apart by invisible forces. Within seconds, it had been torn into a thin line of metal particles. "Gravitational disruptor," Zorak explained. "Useful for breaking apart asteroids or other things." Now it was humanity's turn. Colonel Jin-ho Lee stepped forward with Earth's demonstration weapons. The aliens watched with what looked like polite interest as he activated the railgun. The tungsten projectile shot across the hangar and punched through 3 layers of test armor. "Kinetic accelerator," Jin-ho explained. "We use magnetic fields to speed up metal projectiles." Thyssen made a sound that the translator didn't convert, but it sounded like laughter. "Throwing rocks at high speed? How primitive." The nuclear demonstration had to be done with computer simulations, but the aliens watched the explosion data with obvious amusement. When Jin-ho showed them chemical explosives, Zorak actually did laugh. "You still use chemical reactions for weapons?" the Velthari commander asked. "We stopped using such crude methods thousands of years ago." The worst part came when Jin-ho demonstrated their newest assault rifle. The bullets were fast and accurate, designed to punch through modern body armor. But to the aliens, it was just another projectile weapon. "Fascinating," Thyssen said, but his tone suggested he found it about as fascinating as watching paint dry. "Your species still throws metal pieces using small explosions." "And these weapons would be effective against your own kind?" "Very effective," So-young answered carefully. "Of course they would be," Zorak said. "You have no energy shielding, no adaptive armor, no regenerative systems. These crude weapons might work against other primitives, but they would be useless against any civilized species." Dr. Mi-jin Choi's equipment hummed quietly in the background, recording everything. The energy signatures from the alien weapons, the way their technology worked. the frequencies their shields operated on. All of it went into her databases for later analysis. Your weapons are based on very old principles, Thyssen continued, seeming to enjoy the lecture. Kinetic energy, chemical reactions, nuclear fusion. We mastered these concepts before your species learned to make fire. Our technology has moved far beyond such simple physics. Ambassador Krex finally spoke up, his voice quiet and sad. My world tried to resist with weapons similar to yours. The Coalition fleet destroyed our defenses in less than 1 day. Kinetic weapons cannot penetrate energy shields. Chemical explosives cannot harm ships with regenerative hulls. Zorak waved a hand dismissively. Enough discussion of primitive warfare. Let us talk about why we are here. The formal negotiations took place in the conference room. The aliens offered humanity membership in the Galactic Coalition. It sounded generous until they explained the terms. You would provide raw materials and labor, Zorak explained. In return, you receive protection from hostile species and limited access to our technology. Many worlds have found this arrangement quite beneficial. Limited access? So Young asked. Certainly. Advanced technology must be earned over time. Your current development level suggests you need perhaps 2 or 3 centuries of guidance before you can handle more sophisticated tools. And if we prefer to remain independent? Colonel Jinho asked. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Independence is not an option for developing species, Zorak said coldly. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Primitive worlds that refuse Coalition protection rarely survive long. Krex looked up for the first time during the meeting. His gray face was full of pain. Please consider carefully. My people thought they could stand alone. Now half our world is ash, and the survivors work in Coalition mining facilities. We understand the seriousness of the decision, So Young said diplomatically. We request time to discuss this offer with our government. You have 1 standard month, Zorak announced. When we return, we expect your answer. Choose wisely. As the aliens prepared to leave, Dr. Mijin approached Thyssen with what looked like genuine scientific curiosity. Your energy weapons are remarkable. How do you maintain such stable plasma fields? Thyssen, pleased by the attention, began explaining the basic principles while Mijin's hidden scanners recorded every word. The more the alien scientist talked, the more data she gathered about their technology. After the aliens left, the human delegation gathered in the secure briefing room. The mood was grim but determined. They think we're helpless, Jinho said angrily. Just another primitive species to be conquered. Good, So Young replied. Let them think that. Mijin, what did you learn? Dr. Mijin smiled for the first time all day. More than they intended to teach us. Their shields work on specific energy frequencies. Their weapons need time to charge between shots, and their technology is so advanced that it has some very interesting weaknesses. What kind of weaknesses? Hyunwoo asked. The kind that only primitives like us would think to exploit. 6 months had passed since the first alien visit. Captain Dae Ho-song stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Busan's Pride, watching 50 alien ships approach the edge of Earth's solar system. The fleet was much larger this time, and their formation looked like they meant business. They're not here for another friendly chat, said his weapons officer, Lieutenant Young Mi Han Dae-ho, nodded grimly. Earth had spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment. While the aliens thought humans were still primitive rock throwers, Dr. Mi-jin Choi and her team had been very busy. The lead alien ship was even bigger than the first one. It bristled with weapon ports and shield generators. Behind it came ships from all the Coalition species, each one different but equally threatening. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Tae-hee Kim. Put it on screen. Admiral Zorak appeared on the main display. He looked the same as before but now wore more elaborate armor and carried himself with greater authority. Behind him stood representatives from a dozen different alien species. Humans of Earth. Zorak began, his voice cold and formal. Your month of consideration is over. We have returned for your answer. We're honored by your return, Admiral, Dae-ho replied politely. Admiral Park is preparing Earth's response. She requests a brief meeting to discuss the terms. Zorak's expression darkened. There are no terms to discuss. You join the Coalition as subjects or you face the consequences. Many species have tried to negotiate. All of them learned the same lesson. The screen split to show another alien, one that Dae-ho recognized as Ambassador Krex. The gray-skinned Genti looked even more broken than before. His clothes were simple work garments and his hands were covered in mining dust. "Please listen to them," Krex pleaded, his voice barely above a whisper. "My world was beautiful once. We had cities that touched the clouds and oceans full of life. We thought our weapons could protect us. We were wrong." The screen shifted to show images that made Daeho's stomach turn. Ruined cities, burned forests, empty seas. The Genti homeworld looked like it had been through hell. "This happened in less than 6 hours," Zorak said with satisfaction. "Their kinetic weapons and chemical explosives were useless against our shields. Their nuclear weapons couldn't penetrate our defensive fields. In the end, they begged us to stop." Another alien stepped forward, one with golden scales and 4 arms. "I am General Vex of the Hokari Empire. We lasted 2 days against the Coalition. Our plasma cannons and energy weapons were considered quite advanced. They made no difference." The display showed another dead world, this one covered in crystal formations where cities used to be. "Your species has exactly 1 hour to surrender," Zorak announced. "If you refuse, we will demonstrate the consequences of defying the Coalition. Your lunar installations will be the first to burn." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Captain," Taehi said quietly, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put Admiral Park through." So Young's face appeared on a secure channel. Behind her, Daeho could see the hidden command center that had been built inside the asteroid series. For the past 6 months, Earth's best military minds had been working around the clock. "Status report." "Captain Song," So Young ordered. 50 alien vessels holding position at the edge of the system. They've given us 1 hour to surrender before they attack the lunar bases." "Perfect. Are our people ready?" "All non-essential personnel evacuated from the moon 3 days ago. The skeleton crews are standing by for final evacuation. Dr. Choi's modifications are complete." So Young smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Then let's show them what human rocks can do." The hour passed slowly. Daeho watched the alien fleet maintain their formation, probably expecting Earth to surrender at the last minute. Instead, he received new orders from Admiral Park. "Attention alien fleet," Daeho broadcast on all frequencies. "We appreciate your generous offer, but Earth must respectfully decline membership in the Coalition at this time." Zorak's response was immediate and furious. "Foolish primitives. You choose destruction over civilization. Very well. All ships target the lunar installations. Show them the price of defiance." The alien fleet moved forward with deadly grace. Energy weapons began charging, their glow visible even across the vast distance. Plasma cannons prepared to fire, gravitational disruptors powered up, and molecular beam weapons locked onto their targets. On the lunar surface, the last human personnel ran for the evacuation shuttles. The mining installations looked helpless and defenseless, just collections of simple buildings and equipment scattered across the gray landscape. "Firing," came the cold announcement from the alien fleet. Beams of pure energy lanced across space toward the moon. Plasma bolts that could melt through starship armor streaked toward the mining facilities. Gravitational waves that could tear apart asteroids focused on the human installations. The weapons struck their targets with devastating force. Explosions bloomed across the lunar surface as buildings were vaporized and equipment melted into slag. The aliens watched with satisfaction as the primitive human outposts were destroyed. Then something unexpected happened. The lunar surface opened up. What the aliens had thought were simple mining installations were actually camouflaged covers for massive underground facilities. Huge doors slid back to reveal weapon systems that looked nothing like the primitive kinetic weapons Earth had demonstrated 6 months ago. "What are those?" Tyson's voice came over the alien communication channels. The answer came in the form of tungsten projectiles moving at 15% of light speed. The lunar mass drivers, disguised as mining equipment, fired their loads with tremendous force. The railgun projectiles were simple pieces of metal, but at relativistic speeds they carried the energy of small stars. The alien shields activated automatically, energy fields designed to deflect plasma beams and disintegrate incoming missiles. They were perfect defenses against energy weapons and sophisticated projectiles. They were completely useless against simple chunks of tungsten, moving at relativistic speeds. The first projectile hit Admiral Zorak's flagship dead center. The energy shield might as well have been made of paper. The tungsten rod punched through the alien hull like it was empty air. and the kinetic energy release vaporized the entire front third of the ship. 2 more alien vessels died in the first volley. Their crews didn't even have time to scream before the kinetic impact turned their ships into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Impossible. Thyssen's voice cracked with panic. Kinetic weapons cannot penetrate Coalition shields. These aren't normal kinetic weapons, came a new voice over the communication channels. Dr. Mi Jin Choi's face appeared on screens throughout the alien fleet. Your shields are designed for energy weapons and smart missiles. They don't know how to handle simple mass moving at high velocity. The lunar mass drivers fired again. More tungsten projectiles crossed the space between Earth and the alien fleet in seconds. 2 more Coalition ships died. Their hulls split open by impacts that released more energy than nuclear weapons. Retreat, Zorak ordered from his damaged flagship. All ships fall back to minimum safe distance. But the aliens were learning that minimum safe distance was a relative concept when dealing with relativistic projectiles. The tungsten rods could cross the entire solar system in minutes. How is this possible? General Vex demanded over the communications. Primitive species cannot build such weapons. You're right, Dr. Choi replied. We couldn't build them 6 months ago, but you taught us some very interesting things about energy manipulation and magnetic field generation. We just applied those lessons to our primitive kinetic weapons. The alien fleet limped back to the edge of the solar system. 3 ships completely destroyed, and a dozen more heavily damaged. Admiral Zorak's flagship was barely operational, held together by emergency force fields. For the first time in galactic history, a pre-spaceflight species had not only resisted Coalition forces, but had actually defeated them in direct combat. This isn't over, Zorak transmitted, his voice filled with rage and humiliation. The Coalition has thousands of ships. We will return with a fleet that will turn your entire world to ash. We'll be waiting, Captain Song replied calmly. As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Daeho received another transmission from Admiral Park. Well done, Captain. Phase 1 is complete. Phase 1? Daeho asked. So Young's smile was sharp as a blade. Did you really think a few railguns were all we've been building for the past 6 months? 3 weeks had passed since the aliens' humiliating defeat at Luna. Deep inside the hollowed asteroid Ceres, Admiral So Young Park stood before a massive holographic display showing the entire solar system. Red dots marked thousands of hidden installations that had been built in complete secrecy. They'll be back, said General Taemin Yoon, studying intelligence reports from their deep space sensors. Our spy drones detected massive fleet movements in Coalition space. They're not taking any chances this time. Colonel Yoon-ji Kim looked up from her tactical display. Estimated fleet size is over 200 ships. They're bringing vessels from all 12 Coalition species, including their heavy dreadnoughts. Good, So Young replied, surprising everyone in the command center. The bigger the fleet, the better this works. Captain Woojin Park, Earth's finest strategic mind, activated the main display. The hologram showed a detailed breakdown of humanity's real defenses. What appeared was far beyond anything the aliens had imagined. Project Slingshot is fully operational, Woojin reported. We have mass drivers positioned throughout the asteroid belt, each one capable of launching asteroids at near light speed. The aliens' shields might stop tungsten rods, but let's see them handle a mountain moving at relativistic velocity. Dr. Mi Jin Choi joined the briefing from her laboratory. Behind her, human and captured alien technology worked together in ways that would have seemed impossible months ago. Project Thunderbolt is ready for deployment, she announced. We've reverse-engineered their energy weapon technology and combined it with our nuclear physics. The result is nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers hidden inside what appear to be dead satellites. How many? So Young asked. 3,000 platforms scattered throughout the system. Each one looks like space junk until it fires. Dr. Sung-Ho Kang appeared on another screen from his engineering facility on Mars. Project Hammer is my personal favorite. Relativistic kill vehicles with tungsten cores and basic AI guidance. They're completely dumb by alien standards, using simple ballistic calculations instead of sophisticated targeting systems. Why is that an advantage? General Taemin asked. Because their point defense systems are designed to intercept smart missiles, Seung-ho explained with a grin. They look for complex targeting algorithms, advanced guidance systems, and electronic signatures. Our RKVs use mechanical timers and basic physics. To alien sensors, they look like random space debris until they hit. The display showed the true scope of humanity's preparations. The solar system had been turned into a massive weapons platform, with Earth at its center like a spider in a web of destruction. The most important part, Dr. Mijin continued, is that we've weaponized our own primitiveness. While the aliens have spent thousands of years perfecting energy weapons and sophisticated technology, we've spent the same time perfecting kinetic warfare. She activated a historical display showing human conflicts throughout the centuries. From throwing spears to firing cannons to launching missiles, we've always been good at making things hit other things very hard. The aliens forgot that sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. Commander Young Sik Ha monitored the preparations from his hidden command ship Dokdo, positioned in Saturn's ring system. All stealth platforms report ready. The aliens will scan the system looking for advanced technology. They won't find us because we're using basic heat dampening and radar-absorbing materials instead of energy cloaking. The genius of the human strategy was becoming clear. Every weapon system deliberately avoided the sophisticated technology that alien sensors were designed to detect. Nuclear weapons used chemical triggers instead of quantum initiators. Railguns used magnetic coils instead of gravitational manipulators. Even the communication systems used basic radio instead of subspace frequencies. Status report on the Coalition fleet? So Young asked. They're 3 days out, reported Colonel Yunji. Long-range sensors show massive energy signatures. They're not hiding their approach this time. Admiral Zorak wants us to see them coming. Let him come, So Young said grimly. Dr. Choi explained to everyone why bigger fleets work in our favor. Mijin activated a tactical simulation. Coalition military doctrine is based on overwhelming technological superiority. They mass their ships together for maximum firepower and overlapping shield coverage. It's a perfect strategy against other energy weapon civilizations. The simulation showed a typical coalition attack formation, with hundreds of ships arranged in precise geometric patterns. But massed formations are vulnerable to area effect weapons, Mijin continued, especially kinetic weapons that can't be deflected by energy shields. One asteroid moving at relativistic speed can take out dozens of ships if they're close together. Captain Wu Jin pulled up another display showing Earth's true defensive strategy. We're not trying to fight them ship to ship. We're turning the entire solar system into a kinetic weapon. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris becomes a potential projectile. The scope was staggering. Humanity had spent 6 months installing hidden mass drivers on hundreds of asteroids. When activated, they could launch these space rocks at velocities that would turn them into planet killers. The aliens think in terms of shield penetration and energy output, Dr. Sung Ho explained. We think in terms of mass times velocity equals destruction. It's basic physics that every human child learns, but the aliens have forgotten it exists. General Taemin looked at the tactical displays with professional appreciation. It's brilliant. We're fighting a technological war with Stone Age principles. Throw rocks, hit hard, win fight. Exactly, So Young agreed. The aliens have made their technology so advanced that they've forgotten how vulnerable they are to simple solutions. Their ships can regenerate from energy damage, but they can't regenerate from being smashed to pieces. The command center received an update from deep space monitoring stations. Coalition fleet has entered the outer system, reported the communications officer. Admiral Zorak is broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's hear what he has to say, So Young ordered. Zorak's image appeared on the main screen. The Velthari admiral looked furious, his elegant features twisted with rage and humiliation. Behind him, the bridge of his new flagship buzzed with activity as alien crew members prepared for battle. Primitive humans? Zorak snarled. Your trick with the railguns was clever, but it will not save you. I have brought the full might of the Coalition fleet. 237 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts and the personal vessels of 4 Coalition admirals. The display showed the approaching fleet in all its terrible glory. Massive ships bristling with weapons, energy fields that could deflect starlight, technology that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Your pathetic system will burn, Zorak continued. We have adapted our shields to deflect kinetic weapons. Our targeting systems have been upgraded to track simple projectiles. Your primitive tricks will not work twice. We'll see about that, So Young muttered. This time there will be no mercy. The alien admiral declared. Your world will be reduced to ash. Your species will serve as an example to any others who think they can defy the Coalition. Prepare to face the consequences of your arrogance. The transmission ended, leaving the human command center in tense silence. 237 ships, General Taman said quietly. That's more firepower than has ever been assembled in galactic history. Perfect, So Young replied, activating the system-wide alert. All stations prepare for Operation Asteroid Storm. Dr. Choi, begin powering up the Thunderbolt platforms. Captain Ha, move the Docto into position. Captain Park, begin final calculations for mass driver targeting. What about the Earth evacuation? Colonel Yoonji asked. There is no evacuation, So Young said firmly. We win here or we don't win at all. But I have confidence in our people. The aliens are about to learn that sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the best technology. Sometimes it's the one with the best ideas. As the coalition fleet approached, humanity's hidden weapons powered up throughout the solar system. Thousands of installations that had been disguised as mining equipment, space debris, and abandoned satellites began their final preparations. The aliens were coming with their energy shields, their plasma weapons, and their absolute confidence in technological superiority. They were about to face an entire solar system that had been turned into a kinetic weapon. The coalition fleet entered the inner solar system like a swarm of deadly insects. Admiral Zorak's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, led the formation of 237 vessels. Ships from 12 different species created a wall of metal and energy that stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. Captain Dong Hyun, Lee watched from his hidden position aboard the stealth command ship, Gwangju, buried deep within Saturn's ring system. His sensors tracked every enemy vessel as they moved into the trap humanity had spent months preparing. They're maintaining tight formation, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Subin Park. Just like our simulations predicted. Coalition doctrine never changes, Dong Hyun replied. Maximum firepower, overlapping shields, overwhelming force. It's worked for them for 1,000 years. The alien fleet's first target was obvious. The orbital platforms around Earth and Mars. These installations looked like humanity's primary military assets, bristling with obvious weapons and thick armor plating. All ships, target the orbital installations, Zorak commanded over the coalition communication channels. Demonstrate to these primitives the futility of resistance. The attack began with a display of power that would have terrified any normal civilization. Plasma cannons that could melt through asteroids opened fire. Energy beams that had destroyed entire fleets lanced through space. Gravitational disruptors that could tear apart moons focused their deadly force on the human platforms. The orbital stations died in brilliant explosions, their crews evacuating in small escape pods that scattered in all directions. To the aliens, it looked like humanity's primary defenses had been eliminated in the first few minutes of battle. Pathetic, General Vex sneered from his Hokari dreadnought. Their weapons couldn't even fire before we destroyed them. As expected, Admiral Zorak replied with satisfaction. Primitive kinetic weapons are no match for civilized firepower. Continue the advance. Next target is their homeworld. But the orbital platforms had served their purpose. While the aliens congratulated themselves on their easy victory, the real defenses activated throughout the solar system. Colonel Yujin Song triggered the first wave from her hidden command post on Europa. Operation Asteroid Storm is active. All mass drivers, commence firing. Throughout the asteroid belt, installations that had been disguised as mining equipment revealed their true nature. Massive magnetic accelerators began launching their deadly cargo toward the coalition fleet. The first projectiles were entire asteroids, some as large as mountains, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They looked like natural space debris on alien sensors until they started moving far too fast for anything natural. Incoming kinetic projectiles, reported the sensor officer on Zorak's flagship. Multiple contacts, various sizes, high velocity. Activate point defense systems, Zorak ordered calmly. Their railgun tricks won't work against an alert fleet. The coalition ships opened fire with their defensive weapons, energy beams designed to vaporize incoming missiles and debris. The beams struck the asteroids and began breaking them apart, sending clouds of rock and metal debris spreading through space. Targets destroyed, the sensor officer reported. No threat to the fleet. But the aliens had made a critical error in their calculations. The asteroids had been moving at relativistic speeds, and when the energy beams broke them apart, the fragments maintained most of their original velocity. Instead of facing a few large projectiles, the Coalition fleet now faced millions of smaller ones. Multiple impacts on the outer ships came urgent reports from across the fleet, small debris moving at extreme velocity. The rock fragments, each no larger than a pebble, struck the alien ships with the force of nuclear weapons. Energy shields that could deflect plasma beams were useless against simple mass moving at such incredible speeds. Hull plating that could regenerate from energy damage was shredded by kinetic impacts. "This is impossible," Thyssen screamed over the communication channels as his science vessel was peppered with high-velocity debris. "Kinetic weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." "Tell that to physics," came Dr. Mi Jin Choi's voice over the Coalition frequencies. "Your shields work great against energy. They don't work at all against rocks moving at 30% of light speed." The second wave hit before the aliens could recover. Dr. Ji-Hoon Kim activated the nuclear-pumped X-ray laser. Platforms scattered throughout the system. To alien sensors, they had looked like dead satellites and space junk. Now they revealed their true nature as they fired coordinated beams of coherent radiation. But these weren't the sophisticated energy weapons the aliens expected. The X-ray lasers used crude nuclear explosions to pump their beams. Technology so primitive the Coalition point defense systems didn't recognize them as weapons until the deadly radiation struck home. Multiple energy signatures throughout the system, reported the Coalition sensor networks, unable to classify weapon types. "Because they're not weapons by your standards," Colonel Eugene explained over the communication channels. "They're nuclear bombs that happen to shoot deadly beams before they explode. Very primitive, very effective." The X-ray beams penetrated alien energy shields like they weren't there. The high-energy radiation fried electronic systems and cooked crew members in their own armor. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before began spinning out of control as their systems failed. Admiral Zorak's beautiful formation began to break apart as ships tried to maneuver away from the unexpected threats. But moving out of formation only made them easier targets for the third wave. "Launch the RKVs," ordered Captain Dong Hyun from his hidden position. Throughout the system, thousands of relativistic kill vehicles activated their drives. They looked like flying crowbars to sophisticated alien sensors. Simple metal rods with basic propulsion systems and primitive guidance. No advanced computers, no quantum targeting, no energy signatures worth noticing. "Detecting multiple small craft," reported the Coalition sensor officer. "Crude propulsion, basic guidance systems. They appear to be escape pods or supply vessels." "Ignore them," Zorak ordered. "Focus on the real threats." The RKVs accelerated to 30% of light speed using nuclear pulse drives. Each one was essentially a tungsten rod with a rocket motor, guided by mechanical timers and simple ballistic calculations. They were too primitive for alien point defense systems to consider them dangerous. By the time the Coalition realized their mistake, it was too late. The first RKV struck General Vex's dreadnought amidships. The kinetic energy release was equivalent to a small star going supernova in a focused direction. The massive Hokari vessel simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact and turned into an expanding cloud of superheated plasma. "What was that weapon?" demanded Admiral Thyssen as more RKVs began finding their targets. "A crowbar." Dr. Sung Ho Kang's voice came over the communication channels. "A very fast crowbar. We accelerated a piece of metal to relativistic speeds and let physics do the rest." More Coalition ships died as the RKVs found their marks. Dreadnoughts that could survive planet-killing weapons were destroyed by simple chunks of tungsten. Advanced energy shields and regenerative armor were useless against impacts that released more energy than nuclear weapons. "Retreat," Zorak finally ordered as his fleet disintegrated around him. "All ships emergency jump to hyperspace." But even retreat was difficult when facing kinetic weapons. The RKVs and debris clouds were moving too fast for most ships to escape. Vessels that tried to jump to hyperspace found their drives disabled by X-ray laser damage. "This is Admiral Zorak to all Coalition forces," the alien commander transmitted desperately. "We are facing unknown weapon types. Primitive kinetic systems are somehow penetrating our defenses, requesting immediate reinforcement." "No reinforcements coming," Captain Dong Hyun replied calmly. "Your communication arrays were our first targets. You're cut off from the rest of the Coalition." The battle had become a massacre. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by weapons so primitive, The coalition doctrine didn't even have procedures for dealing with them. Energy shields designed to stop the most advanced weapons in the galaxy were useless against simple rocks thrown hard enough. How is this possible? Zorak demanded, his voice cracking with panic as debris from destroyed ships began impacting his flagship. You forgot the basics, Dr. Mijin explained patiently. Energy weapons need time to charge. Sophisticated targeting systems can be confused, and advanced technology has lots of ways to break. But kinetic energy is kinetic energy. Mass times velocity equals destruction, no matter how advanced your civilization thinks it is. Of the 237 ships that had entered the solar system, fewer than 50 were still functional. The rest had been destroyed or disabled by weapons so primitive that the aliens still couldn't believe they worked. This isn't over, Zorak transmitted as his damaged flagship limped toward the edge of the system. The Coalition has thousands of ships. We will return with a fleet that will turn your sun into dust. We'll be waiting, Captain Donghyun replied. And next time, we'll have even more rocks to throw. As the surviving alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, humanity's hidden defenders emerged from their concealment throughout the solar system.
They had achieved the impossible, a pre-dia.
News of the Coalition's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On a dozen worlds, enslaved species looked up at their alien masters with new hope in their eyes. The impossible had happened. Humanity had not just survived an encounter with the Coalition fleet, but had destroyed it using primitive weapons. Dr. Subin Park worked frantically in her new role as Earth's chief diplomatic strategist. Hidden communication arrays throughout the solar system sent encoded messages to resistance groups on Coalition worlds. The Genti, who had thought their cause hopeless, began planning their first uprising in centuries. The Hokari resistance cell on Vex Prime has gone active, reported her assistant, communications specialist In Ho Yoon. They're asking for technical specifications on kinetic weapons. Send them everything, Subin replied without hesitation. Mass driver designs, railgun schematics, even basic ballistics calculations. The Coalition has ruled through technological intimidation for too long. On Earth, President Minho Jang addressed the planet from the rebuilt lunar installations. Behind him, human engineers worked alongside the few alien defectors who had chosen freedom over the Coalition's oppressive rule. 6 months ago, they called us primitive, Minho said, his voice carrying to every corner of Earth. They said our weapons were useless, our technology outdated, our resistance futile. Today the wreckage of their fleet drifts through our solar system as proof that advance doesn't always mean better. The political impact was immediate and far-reaching. Coalition High Command found itself facing rebellions on 17 worlds simultaneously. Species that had been subjugated for centuries suddenly remembered that they had once been free. But the aliens weren't finished. Deep in Coalition space, what remained of their military gathered for one final assault. Admiral Zorak, facing execution for his failures, had convinced the High Command to give him one last chance to restore Coalition dominance. Captain Heejin Cho stood on the bridge of Earth's newest battleship, Seoul's Vengeance, watching long-range sensors track the approaching alien fleet. This time Zorak had brought everything. The Coalition's reserve fleets, their experimental weapons, and technology that had never been used in actual combat. Estimated fleet size? Asked her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kyung-min Kim. Over 500 ships, came the grim reply. They're not taking any chances this time. Good, Hyejin said with a cold smile. Neither are we. The final battle began at the edge of the solar system. Zorak's massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships arranged in defensive clusters designed to minimize the effectiveness of kinetic weapons. Humans of Earth, Zorak transmitted, his voice filled with desperate fury. You have cost me everything. My career, my honor, my people's respect. But you will not escape justice. I have brought the entire Coalition fleet to end your rebellion once and for all. Your rebellion ended the moment you thought might made right, President Minho replied from Earth. Today, we finish what you started. The aliens had learned from their previous defeats. Their shields had been modified to deflect kinetic projectiles, their point defense systems upgraded to track primitive guidance systems, and their formations spread out to minimize area effect damage, but humanity had learned too. Activate. Project Dimensional Strike, ordered Admiral. So Young Park from her command center. Throughout the solar system, new installations revealed themselves. These weren't mass drivers or nuclear lasers, but something far more advanced. Humanity had reverse-engineered alien portal technology and combined it with their own kinetic weapons expertise. The result was devastating in its simplicity. Tungsten rods, accelerated to relativistic speeds, disappeared into dimensional rifts that opened directly inside alien ships. There was no external impact to defend against, no projectile to track or intercept. One moment a coalition vessel was intact, the next it was torn apart from the inside by kinetic energy that had bypassed every defense. Impossible. Zorak screamed as his formation disintegrated. Dimensional technology requires quantum computers and gravitational manipulators. How can primitives access portal space? We stole your technology and made it better, Dr. Mi-Jin Choi replied over the communication channels. You taught us how to open rifts in space. We figured out how to throw rocks through them. The dimensional strike weapons were the perfect fusion of alien sophistication and human simplicity. Advanced portal technology delivered primitive kinetic projectiles directly to their targets, bypassing every defense the coalition had developed over millennia of warfare. Ship after ship died as tungsten rods materialized inside their hulls. The aliens' most advanced dreadnoughts were destroyed by pieces of metal that had been accelerated in completely different locations. No amount of shielding or armor could protect against weapons that attacked from inside. All ships retreat, Zorak ordered desperately. Emergency hyperspace jump. But escape was impossible. The portal weapons could target ships anywhere within the solar system, and hyperspace drives needed time to charge. The coalition fleet found itself trapped in a killing field where the very laws of physics had been turned against them. Within 2 hours, the greatest military force in galactic history had been reduced to scattered debris. Of the 500 ships that had entered the system, only a handful of heavily damaged vessels managed to escape to hyperspace. The war was over, but the real change was just beginning. 3 months later, a very different kind of alien fleet approached Earth. These ships came with white flags and messages of surrender, carrying diplomats instead of warriors. The Coalition High Command, facing complete collapse of their authority, had finally accepted reality. The surrender ceremony took place aboard the orbital station New Sol, where the first meeting between humans and aliens had occurred almost a year earlier. But the roles were now completely reversed. Admiral So-Young Park, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth Forces, sat across from the Velthari High Counselor Zerion. The alien leader looked nothing like the arrogant representatives who had first visited Earth. His elegant features were marked by exhaustion and defeat. The Galactic Coalition formally surrenders to the human government of Earth, Zerion announced, his voice barely audible. We request mercy for the species under our former rule. Mercy is exactly what you'll get, So-Young replied firmly. But not the kind you're used to giving. Every species in coalition space will be offered the choice of independence or voluntary cooperation. No more subjugation, no more tribute, no more forced labor. The liberation process took months to complete. Human ships, crewed by volunteers from dozens of species, spread throughout former coalition space. They carried a simple message. Freedom was available to anyone willing to fight for it. On the former Genti homeworld, Ambassador Krek stood in the ruins of his capital city and watched human engineers working alongside his people to rebuild what the coalition had destroyed. Why do you help us? He asked Dr. Mi-Jin Choi as she supervised the installation of new shield generators. We offered you nothing but warnings. Because that's what civilized people do, Mi-Jin replied simply. We help each other. We don't conquer each other. The new galactic order took shape gradually. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together on projects that benefited everyone. Human technology, crude but effective, was combined with alien knowledge to create innovations that neither could have achieved alone. The final scene of Earth's transformation from primitive world to galactic liberator took place in Dr. Mi-Jin's laboratory. She stood before a mixed group of human and alien scientists, all working together on technologies that would have seemed impossible just a year earlier. The coalition ruled through fear and superior technology, she told her diverse team. They forgot that the most important technology is the one between your ears. Intelligence, creativity, and the willingness to think differently. A young Hokari engineer raised one of his 4 hands. Dr. Choi, how did humans know that simple kinetic weapons would be effective against our advanced defenses? Mijin smiled, remembering the terror and excitement of those first desperate months of preparation. We didn't know. We just thought about it differently. You saw kinetic weapons as primitive because they were old. We saw them as effective because they worked. But surely your species must have had some advantage, insisted a Kethmori scientist. Some natural ability that made you superior warriors. Our only advantage was that we never stopped learning, Mijin replied. When you showed us your technology, we didn't just admire it. We studied it, understood it, and figured out how to defeat it. The Coalition's greatest weakness was that they thought they knew everything. The diverse group of scientists returned to their work, humans and aliens side by side, building a future that neither species could have imagined alone. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their kinetic projectiles or their innovative tactics. It had been their refusal to accept that primitive meant powerless. Sometimes the most advanced solution really was to go back to basics. Sometimes the answer to overwhelming technological superiority was simpler thinking, not more complex technology. And sometimes, the species that seemed weakest could teach the strongest the most important lesson of all. The galaxy would never be the